Now, SAPS Eastern Cape District Commissioner General Norman Modishana has confirmed that 6 suspects have been killed during a shootout with the members of the National Task Team and Taxi Violence unit on the R61 in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. General Modishana says the suspects were linked to several crimes, including extortion and murder. Police recovered 4 pistols that were in the suspects' possession.
Lightning cracks across a brooding Eastern Cape sky. The R61 highway hums with the steady rhythm of floods of steel, taxis and minibus vehicles through the darkness. In one of them sits a man known by 2 names, Zola Yolelo. Hands clenched on the steering wheel, eyes hidden behind tinted glasses, he's silent, but the tension in the vehicle is electric. It is just past dusk on a fateful Monday night. The air is heavy with the smell of gasoline and gunpowder. Unmarked police cars pull alongside. Moments later, a hail of bullets rattles, a gunfight flashes into life. A crescendo of violence in the stillness. And just like that, a powerful taxi boss is shot dead. The township goes still. Headlines explode, taxi kingpin killed in shootout. Witnesses tremble. Yolelo's body is gone, but his death unleashes storm clouds over Mthatha and the Eastern Cape. Who was he? Gangster, entrepreneur, protector, predator. This documentary peels back the layers. Born in the winding townships outside Mthatha, Zola Yolelo didn't start with power, he built it from the ground up. As a car washer and conductor, he learned the hustle early, who to know, how to move and how to command fear and respect. He ascended quickly, earning positions like chairperson of the Mthatha Taxi Association and later Otembo regional chairperson, and in April 2022 he was elected Eastern Cape provincial chairperson for SANTACO, South African National Taxi Council. SANTACO is no small-time group, it regulates the powerful minibus taxi industry, which moves millions daily and sometimes operates at the intersection of business and bloodshed. Under Yolelo's reign, tensions simmered, turf wars, unauthorized fares, and alleged extortion thrived. Taxi violence, trafficking of revenue and intimidation became part of the territory. Police had long linked Yolelo to assassination plots and murders across the Eastern Cape. In 2018, he was the subject of a police reward offer for murder suspects, but remained elusive. Fear and rumor followed him like shadows in the night, painting him as the figure behind the region's taxi violence. Even as police closed in, Yolelo stood tall in public. In September 2023, he led a high-profile SANTACO meeting in Mthatha's Garden Court, pledging to stem taxi violence by forming a task team and bringing meter taxis into SANTACO's folds. With bold words and even bolder promises, he claimed to want peace, but many whispered the peace was enforced through fear and power rather than dialogue.
Touch on Gift of the Givers. We have Gift of the Givers, Abongile Yankees, SABC News reporter. They're giving us some of the latest developments on the ground. We take you now to humanitarian organization Gift of the Givers, which has deployed search and rescue teams to the Eastern Cape to help with the flooding emergency. This comes after floods caused extensive damage, particularly, as you heard my colleague Abongile Yankees mentioning, in Butterworth and Mthatha, leaving many people displaced. The organization says emergency teams have been deployed to provide urgent humanitarian assistance to families evacuated to community halls in Butterworth, Nelson Mandela Bay.
In June 2025, after deadly floods hit the Eastern Cape, aid organizations surged in, especially the highly respected Gift of the Givers. But reports surfaced, taxi bosses demanding protection fees from relief teams. Witnesses claimed water supplies and vehicles were blocked. The threats forced aid teams to retreat. Not long after, Yolelo found himself on the radar, not just for general extortion, but for supposed interference with humanitarian efforts. The police, acting on intelligence, ambushed him on a 61 between Mthatha and Onkobo. When the vehicle refused to stop and allegedly opened fire, that was the flashpoint. Officers returned fire in self-defense, as reported by the police. Monday afternoon, June 23, 2025. Multiple police units lay in wait along the highway. A vehicle, Yolelo inside, is flagged to stop. Instead, Occupants dive for cover and open fire. Chaos reigns, bullets tear through metal, smoke curls over the tarmac. When the dust settles, 6 bodies lie motionless, including Yolelo's. Ballistic tests are ongoing. The victims are formally unrecognized by identity, but many believe this marks the end of a taxi empire. SANTACO quickly mourns its fallen leader. Recalling his roots as a conductor, they hail him as committed, assertive, and courageous. But others, critical voices, are loud. The ABA Thembu royal house was among them, clarifying that Yolelo was never a chief or traditional leader, calling him instead an extortionist masquerading as a man of influence. Analysts see his path as characteristic of taxi bosses who include legitimate enterprise and criminal networks, part protectors, part predators. To understand Yolelo, one must understand the taxi industry. In South Africa, taxis are not just transport, they are survive and thrive systems. Unregulated and essential, moving 1.518 million commuters daily, taxis fill gaps left by formal transit. Competitive and violent, fare zones overlap, giving rise to deadly conflicts. Organized by bodies like SANTACO, leaders enforce discipline, set routes, and impose fees, legitimate in structure, coercive in practice. Yolelo played this dual role, with localized sway in Mthatha, and provincial influence after taking over SANTACO's Eastern Cape wing. SANTACO's tribute emphasized Yolelo's rise from car washer, noting that he served on SANTACO's NEC with a robust approach. To many drivers, electricity flickered between admiration and fear. He built order, but also enforced it, sometimes with bullets. Outside observers and rulings paint him darker. As charges, even if untried, linked him to murder and extortion, his form of influence became criminalized, leading to ambush on A61. The fallout from his death is earth-shaking. Among effects expected: power vacuum, he controlled routes and revenue, now open ground for others. Violence spike potential, other leaders may vie for position. Turf wars often follow assassinations. Calls for reform, there's debate over whether SANTACO needs tighter regulation from government, or even defunding. Mthatha streets dimmed. Taxi ranks halted. Rumors fly, revenge, peace, or opportunism. SANTACO called for calm, but local media witnessed standoffish drivers and police checkpoints. Residents whispered in hushed tones. He gave us order, but at what cost? Now there's freedom, but also fear without his iron fist. SANTACO officials promised transitional structures. The government reminded citizens, no replacement should rise by gunfire. SANTACO's task force, they're forming committees to preempt violence and fill leadership roles. Whether this curbs traitors is uncertain. Community monitoring, NGOs call for civic watch groups, not to challenge taxi authority, but to report abuses. Law enforcement persistence, police vow follow through with ballistic tests and extortion case files. But success depends on deeper institutional strength. The A61 is quiet now. Traffic hums, but no sirens, no shots. Question marks hang over the horizon. Will his death bring relief or renewed violence? Will SANTACO's reforms outpace opportunism? Has South Africa learned that blurred lines between protectors and predators carry a lethal price? In Mthatha, life goes on, commuters board taxis, conductors hustle, leaders emerge. The industry reshapes itself again. Yet the story of Zola Yolelo lingers like an unanswered question in a region where shadows stretch long. The storm may have passed, but its echoes still rumble down the A61.
Can you please tell us what exactly happened?
Yeah, good evening. What I can confirm is that our members were on duty. That is the members of the National Task Team and Taxi Violence that are deployed in the area. So what happened is they were following up on an information, and this was an information about the suspects that are involved in extortion and some of the cases of murder. So as they were following up, they identified this vehicle. This vehicle was traveling on the R61, and as they were trying to stop this vehicle, then the suspects got out of the vehicle, and then they started shooting at the police, and then the police retaliated and fatally shot 6 suspects.
Do we know who all those suspects are?
Currently, we cannot confirm who the suspects are. However, the members, as they were following up on this information, they've identified as one of the suspects as the suspect of extortion. And this suspect was having some other cases of murder, which were taxi-related cases.
What was found in their vehicle?
What was found on the vehicle? It is 4 pistols. They were found on their bodies as they were carrying these firearms. It's 4 pistols. The rounds are not yet counted yet.
Any injuries on the side of the police?
There is no injuries on the side of the police.
If this documentary opened your eyes, don't stop here. Like this video if you believe it's time to break the silence around taxi violence. Subscribe for more raw, investigative stories from the underworld of South Africa. Comment below, was Zola Yolelo a protector of his people or a predator of the system? Share this with others who need to understand the hidden wars behind the wheel. For more gripping South African true crime documentaries, hit the notification bell. The next story might be closer than you think. This is not just a story. It's a wake-up call.